Hello and welcome to this week's art class. This time we're going to be talking about masking fluids. So for those who aren't familiar with the medium, basically what it is, it's like a sort of sticky rubbery liquid that you can paint onto your watercolour paper, and then that means you can put colours over the top, layers and washes, and it will actually protect the drawing underneath the areas that you want to keep white, so it acts as a sort of resist. Now there are plenty of different sorts you can buy, but the one I prefer is the Pebeo drawing gum. It comes in a nice big bottle and it's already tinted light blue, which means that you can see where you are on the paper. Sometimes with the white masking fluids they can be a bit confusing because you can't quite see where they are as you're painting. In terms of applying them, you can apply the masking fluid in a number of different ways, and it really just depends on what line you want to achieve. Some people are quite happy just using a cocktail stick and they get a nice fine line with it and quite a lot of control. A ruling pen is really quite interesting because it has a reservoir, and so you can get some very fine lines again without having to keep dipping back so often. If you're going to use a brush works really well, but certainly don't use one of your good ones because the masking fluid will totally ruin it. What you can do is get a bar of soap and just dampen the brush and then rub the brush in the soap, and then it will protect the brush to a certain extent. Or indeed a bit of fairy liquid works quite well. The other thing you could use is maybe a glass dropper, because that will pull the masking fluid across the surface of the paper, or indeed one of these silicone blending tools that you can buy that are really quite handy. Now, if you're looking to buy any of these things and you can't find them locally, Jackson's have a really good selection, and there's a link at the bottom here, so have a look and see what you think. Basically what we're going to be doing today is building up a picture using masking fluid, which would be fabulous for a Christmas card. But more than that, it's really going to be very useful for your watercolour skills, in as much as it'll help you in terms of planning. I think people often think that watercolour is a difficult medium, in as much as if you go wrong with oils, and oil is a medium that I really enjoy, but if you make a pig's ear of it you can basically scrape it off and go again. With watercolour it's very much a question of getting the planning right, and you need to think ahead, so you need to decide which of the areas you want to reserve for the white highlight, because that would be basically bare paper, and so you have to think in which order you'll be doing things. So you start off with masking maybe, or thinking about reserving the white in one way or another, then the light washes, followed by broader washes, followed by dark glazes, and then indeed the fine detail at the end. So you need to think it through, and that's possibly where people go wrong, in as much as they plough straight in and they end up with a bit of a muddy puddle, basically because they haven't been doing their planning. Now this second example is basically the same thing, except we're layering up each time. The layer of masking fluid, there are 4 of them in all. It's protecting the lighter wash that's gone before, giving an idea of a darker progression into the distance. Right, so let's get going with our picture. I've done this freehand, but you might like to find some silhouettes that you can copy. One thing I do want to warn you of, I was explaining to you about planning, and you might want to do this whole thing very carefully and slowly, but aim to not leave the masking fluid on for more than a couple of days, because what can happen sometimes if you leave it for too long, it can sort of bind with the paper, so when you come to peel it off it can make rips, so be aware of that. applied your masking fluid, leave it to dry and then paint over the top. When that's all dry, remove the masking fluid. You can use a rubber, but I prefer to use my fingertips as there's more control, and you can notice immediately if it starts to rip. Right, I do hope you enjoy having a go at this. I love doing it, so I can't wait to see what you come up with and we can put it in the Christmas gallery. Please like and subscribe, and thank you so much for your very kind donations. They're very much appreciated, and I'll see you next time.